Hello everyone, welcome to What's New in Firebase at Google I/O 23. Firebase is Google's app development platform, a platform that helps you build and grow apps users love by integrating Google technology, cloud services, and third-party tools from the open source ecosystem. Millions of developers use Firebase to engage billions of people with delightful experiences. For example, Scavenger and XR Ensemble are using Firebase along with the latest location-based AI capabilities of Google's geospatial APIs. This has enabled them to build multi-sensory AR monuments across Germany that highlight stories of women pioneers. Their Make Us Visible campaign is an inspiring example of how technology can be used to create an even more diverse urban environment. We know that one of the greatest superpowers developers have is to transform an idea into a real-world solution, often in the form of an app that provides information, makes tasks easier, or is just fun to play. But as apps become more capable and ingrained in everyday life, app development has become more complex. The lines between front-end and back-end have begun to blur. One moment you might be styling a button, and the next you're analyzing HTTP status codes of rejected requests from a third-party API. Today, developers need to understand and navigate and stitch together more parts of the stack than ever before. Full stack development is inherently complicated because each part of the stack is a different system with different constraints, and everything must work well together across tools, libraries, and IDEs. This year at Google I/O, we're excited to share how we're strengthening our infrastructure and improving integration across our tool chain to make full stack development more seamless and simpler. With these updates, you can accelerate setup, start building faster, and improve the quality of your apps across many platforms. So let's get started and see what's new in Cloud Functions for Firebase, our fully managed infrastructure powered by Google Cloud.
Cloud Functions for Firebase simplifies server-side development by letting you run code in response to events, such as sending a welcome email when a user creates an account or responding to an HTTP request to provide an API backend for your app. All this is possible without worrying about provisioning, maintaining, scaling, or decommissioning service. Last year, we announced the public preview of Cloud Functions second generation, a more flexible, powerful, and efficient way to run your functions underpinned by Cloud Run. With Cloud Functions second generation, you can run functions with greater request timeouts to handle even longer running tasks. You can tap into more powerful instances with up to 32 GB of memory to handle more demanding workloads. Finally, you have more granular control over compute resources, so you can further optimize performance and costs of your function. Let's take a closer look at the concurrency feature, which is only available in the second generation of Cloud Functions. Concurrency can reduce code starts, improve latency, and lower costs by allowing a single instance to handle more than one request at a time. Each individual Cloud function can now handle up to 1,000 requests in parallel. That is 1,000 times more than in Cloud Functions first generation. And thanks to this, Cloud Functions doesn't have to spin up as many new instances when there is a spike in load, for example, when your app goes viral. This means fewer users of your app will experience a cold start, leading to a faster app with happier users. And your Cloud Functions can now respond to more events. For example, you can respond to events from Crashlytics, informing you when your app experiences an unexpected surge in crashes. It can even respond to events from Performance Monitoring, alerting you when your app's startup time crosses the threshold you've set. Just last month, we also introduced the highly anticipated preview of 5-star trigger support in second generation of Cloud Functions. With this powerful addition, you can trigger functions based on writes to a 5-star collection, and those functions will run more quickly and with less cold starts. Today, we're excited to announce that Cloud Functions second generation has graduated to general availability, so you can confidently use it in your production apps. But we are not done yet. Let's talk about one more new feature in functions. Python is one of the most popular programming languages in the world. Over 17 million developers are part of this community and write Python code every single day. It's a powerful, high-performance language that can run on various platforms. Today, we're excited to announce public preview support of Python in Cloud Functions second generation. Now you can write functions in more ways and be productive using your preferred languages and toolchains. This also means you can take advantage of the many incredible Python packages and open source solutions for tasks like machine learning and complex math computations. Our new Python functions SDK allows you to write triggers in just a few lines of code. So let's use it to create a server that notifies users with Firebase Cloud Messaging when a new announcement is added to a collection in Firestore. First, we need to import the Python functions SDK's Firestore functions submodule. We wrap our notify users function in the submodule's onDocument created decorator to tell Firebase to trigger this function every time a new document is created. Then, we specify which collection we'd like to watch by passing the document argument to the onDocument created decorator. In this case, our database has an announcements collection that we'd like to watch. When a function is triggered, it receives an event from Cloud Functions for Firebase. This event contains the data that's in the newly written document. Next, we want to take this data and send it to users with Firebase Cloud Messaging. To do that, we'll need the Python Admin SDK, which makes it easy to access Firebase services from a secure environment. We can initialize the Admin SDK without any arguments, because Cloud Functions for Firebase wires up default credentials for us automatically. Then, we can send a message to our users using the Admin SDK's messaging submodule. And that's all we need to do. Cloud Functions Python support is launching with all the triggers supported in the Firebase Admin SDK for Node.js, including support for Firestore. So whether you're building a scalable API using an HTTP trigger, or if you're extending your mobile app with a callable function, or if you want to respond to Firestore events, we've got you covered. To get started with Cloud Functions with Python or Node, use the Firebase CLI to generate some starter code for you. We just covered a few compelling announcements about second-generation Cloud Functions. But it still takes time and effort to build, test, deploy, and maintain your function code, not to mention finding and learning new APIs. We want to make that process faster and easier so you can ship your apps quickly. And that's where Firebase Extensions come in. Firebase Extensions are pre-packaged serverless solutions that let you quickly add new capabilities to your apps. Firebase provides a rich ecosystem of open-source extensions written and maintained by Google and third parties, so you can easily build feature-rich apps with your favorite APIs. For example, you can add full-text search, email marketing, and messaging features with extensions from companies like Coelho, MailChimp, and Twilio. Extensions are easily configurable, and once deployed, no maintenance is required. When a new improved version of an extension is available, you can update to the latest version with one click. Extensions are also built on top of Google's serverless infrastructure, so just like Cloud Functions, they automatically scale to suit the load on your app. We're excited to share that we have just launched several new extensions that will enable you to tap into the power of Google's machine learning solutions. One of those new extensions is a public preview of Chatbot with PaLM API. It connects Google's latest generative language APIs with your Firestore instance. This extension lets you add generative AI capabilities to your app, such as chat interface for continuous dialogue, summarize text capability, and more. So let's see how it works. First, we start by installing the extension, where we review how billing works, enabled APIs and resources, and required rules. Then, we configure parameters like which Firestore collection to get the chat messages from. We can even provide optional context and examples to the PaLM Text API to help guide its responses and make it more effective for our use case. There are also a few other fields we can customize to make sure the extension works as desired. Once we're happy with our configurations, we can go ahead and install the extension. After it's installed, we can view the extension details and see guidance for how to use it. Okay, we're ready to give this a try, so let's flip over to the Firestore dashboard and input our prompt. Here we're going to ask, what are Firebase extensions? That triggers the extension to generate a response from the API. In just a few steps, we set up our own chatbot powered by Google's PaLM API with 0 lines of code. If you want to try it for yourself, you can find and install it on extensions.dev. Over the past couple months, we have added over 20 new extensions built by Google, partners, and passionate members of the Firebase community. If you have an interesting idea for a new extension you'd like to build, we have great news for you. We're excited to announce the beta launch of the Extensions Publishing Experience, Starting today, anyone can build and publish their own extensions with the potential to reach millions of Firebase and Google Cloud developers worldwide. For businesses, you can build extensions to help your customers get started with your API with just a few clicks and configurations. For developers, you can create extensions that fit your unique needs or solve common problems and easily share them with your fellow developers. This is the first step toward building an open ecosystem where businesses and individual developers can publish extensions that benefit the entire Google developer community. Check out the Firebase Extensions Hub at extensions.dev to explore our latest extensions and find our documentation for building and publishing your first extension. Firestore is our NoSQL document database that lets you easily store, sync, and query data for your mobile and web apps at scale without ever touching a server. Last year, we announced support for a count aggregation query. Count provides a simple and scalable method of returning the number of matching documents of a query with just a few lines of code. This can be useful in scenarios such as knowing the number of customers in a specific city, how many sales were made in the last month, or the number of employees in a certain department. Now, we're excited to announce that Count has graduated to general availability for production scale applications. But that's not all we wanted to share about Firestore today. We previously supported operators like in and array contains any, which handles some types of OR queries. For example, the in operator allows combining equality clauses on a specific document field. So if you want to search for all the hotels in Chelsea or Soho neighborhoods in New York, you can use the in operator on the neighborhood field, and it will filter all the hotels available in one of those areas. But we know that some use cases are more complicated and require more sophisticated logic, like filtering documents based on values stored into different fields. So let's say you're in the mood for an adventure and you want to discover hotels that have a minimum of 4 stars, but anywhere in the city. Well, in that case, you would need to enhance your search to also filter hotels based on the stars field. Well, now you can. We're introducing support for generic OR queries in Cloud Firestore. This enables you to find documents that meet one or more criteria, since you can use the OR operator to combine multiple conditions in multiple fields. So with our example before, we wanted to include hotels that have at least 4 stars, even if they're not in Chelsea or Soho. We can now do this by using the OR filter on the query, adding a greater than or equal to filter on the stars field. The result set now includes hotels located in those neighborhoods or that have at least 4 stars. What's more, you can also combine the OR operator with order by, so all the hotels will be sorted from the highest to the lowest number of stars. OR queries are available in production today. Update your SDK to the latest version and check out our documentation for detailed information.
Not only does Firebase give you fully managed scalable infrastructure to build faster and get to market quickly, Firebase also helps keep your backend safe. To implement effective app security measures, the client and the server need to communicate with each other to help ensure that backend requests from clients are valid. This can be difficult to manage on your own. With AppCheck, you can protect your Firebase, cloud, and custom backend resources from unauthorized access and from abuse such as billing fraud, phishing, and app impersonation. AppCheck verifies that calls to the backend are coming from your legitimate app on an untampered device. AppCheck protects a number of Firebase services, and today we are adding Firebase Authentication with Identity Platform to the list. If you haven't already, upgrade to Firebase Authentication with Identity Platform to get started. We've also made it easier for you to protect your mobile games with AppCheck. No one likes playing a game with a cheater. Cheating can include things like impossible high scores, item hacks, automated aiming, and other unfair advantages. And if you're a game developer, cheating is especially frustrating because it can drive players away and reduce your revenue. In fact, 77% of online gamers would stop playing a game if they thought other players were cheating. That's why we're happy to announce that AppCheck SDKs for Unity and C++ are now available. With AppCheck, game developers can now combat the most common forms of cheating by attesting that a player is playing on a legitimate version of your game. And that's not all. For those of you who work with security-sensitive actions, such as user sign-in, hardware operations, or expensive computations, replay attacks are a big concern. We're happy to announce that we've added support for replay protection for custom backends and cloud functions for Firebase. By enrolling in this protection, your sensitive endpoints are protected against replay attacks. Get started with AppCheck to help protect your backend resources by checking out our documentation or learn more from our AppCheck Code Lab. Firebase integrates Google technology, cloud services, and third-party tools under one platform. Setting up a Firebase project doesn't sound very complicated, but now imagine that you have to set up many projects that are configured exactly the same. For example, when setting up testing, staging, and production environments. This is where Terraform comes in. Terraform is a widely used infrastructure as code tool to automate provisioning and configuring cloud resources, so you can have peace of mind that your backend resources are consistent across all your environments. So your production environment matches your staging and all your testing environments. It is also a great tool for onboarding new team members quickly, or configuring multiple projects that have similar needs, like security roles. And it's not just about consistency. Removing the need to manually click buttons in the console reduces the chance for accidentally disabling a feature. With Terraform, every change is reviewable and easy to roll back. A previous configuration is one command away if new changes don't go quite the way you planned. We are thrilled to announce that Firebase now supports Terraform resources for project, apps, and key cloud resources, with more coming soon. Let's take a look at how easy it is to provision Firestore resources with Terraform. With your Terraform file all set to go, it's a simple Terraform apply, yes, and then the project is set up. In the console, we can see the project has been created with Firestore and rules. Terraform support for Firebase and fundamental services are available today. To manage your Firebase projects with Terraform and ensure a consistent, fully managed backend, check out the code samples linked in our documentation.
In addition to providing serverless cloud infrastructure and strengthening backend security, we're simplifying full-stack development by making it easier for you to integrate with popular web frameworks. Last year, we released several updates that took Firebase hosting beyond static websites and made it possible to easily deploy dynamic web frameworks, such as Next.js and Angular Universal. This made it possible for you to bootstrap server apps in the CLI and deploy them with a single CLI command you're already familiar with today. When you call Firebase deploy, our CLI will automatically detect which framework you're using, run the build, generate the cloud function when required, and set up any needed configuration. And that's it, your site will be live. Today, we're excited to tell you that this feature is now even more powerful, as we've added experimental support for even more server-based frameworks, including SvelteKit, Astro, and Next. We're excited to make these improvements, as our goal is to empower you to use the web frameworks that you already depend on today. And we're thankful for the support of our great community. And there's more. Now that Cloud Functions for Firebase has Python support, we're thrilled to announce experimental support for Flask and Django in our one-command deployments. Now you can focus on writing your Python code and just run Firebase deploy when you're ready to go live. All right, with Python covered, we have one more exciting feature to tell you about. Today in Firebase hosting, preview channels allow you to deploy different versions of your site and generate a preview URL that expires after a set time. This is incredibly helpful for collaborating across teams when integrating with source control systems like GitHub. Before, preview channels only supported versioning for static content, but that's not enough if you're deploying a dynamic site. So, to complete the picture, we're now adding support for dynamic preview channels, allowing you to share a preview of your app and sites built with frameworks like Astro, Next.js, and Angular Universal before shipping to production. Before, all revisions of your dynamic site pointed to the most recently deployed version of your backend. Now, when you deploy hosting and cloud functions, the revisions can be linked to each other. This allows you to preview changes to your web application that requires backend changes without affecting other environments. To demonstrate this, let's pull up a Flask application written in Python. It's a simple little app, vanilla Flask, with a static front end. We have an API route with a decorator that verifies that the user is logged in and prints out the user's detail. When we call deploy, the CLI will detect that it's a Flask app and build a cloud function to run this for you automatically. The static assets will also be sent to the CDN and deployed alongside your dynamic content. Once our deploy is successful, we'll open up the link, and ta-da, a Flask app backend running on our preview channels. This feature also works great with GitHub, with the preview URL posting as a pull request comment. To use dynamic preview channels, update to the latest version of the Firebase CLI and see our documentation for more details.
Now, let's talk about some exciting updates in Flutter. Developers around the world love Flutter because it allows them to create beautiful, natively compiled, multi-platform apps, all from a single codebase. Last year at Google I/O, we told you that we added first-class Flutter support within the Firebase console and in our SDKs. Well, today, we're excited to announce Firebase hosting support for Flutter Web. Now, when setting up a Flutter project with Firebase, you'll find step-by-step instructions for getting started with Flutter and Firebase hosting as quickly and as easily as possible. We've also been working hard on making the Flutter SDK for Firebase even better. And we're excited to announce that we're now at parity for the most commonly used capabilities. If you can do something with our SDK in an Android app, now you can also do it with Flutter. Capabilities like these. You can export delivery metrics from Firebase Cloud Messaging to BigQuery so you can track your campaigns. Or you can use sign-in for Apple, Google Sign-in, GitHub, and other sign-in providers out of the box. You can also easily track when a Firestore document was last modified with the server timestamp behavior property. Flutter is an important part of the Firebase community, and we strive to make building Flutter and Firebase apps an absolute delight. If you're developing directly on Android, you'll love some of the ways that we're improving our support for Android apps so you can improve their quality and performance. When your users open your app, it's important for it to start fast. It's the first interaction that your users have with you, and slow startup times will create a bad first impression and project an image of low quality. So with that in mind, we made improvements to our Android SDK to reduce startup time. We built a new and efficient thread pool. We added background workers, and now we also defer the product's initialization until it's actually needed. These SDK improvements reduce CPU consumption in the app startup process. And that means that Android apps built with Firebase will now start up approximately 3% faster on average. That's about 20 milliseconds. And the top apps start in less than 1 second, so every millisecond counts. Now, let's talk about how Firebase and the Android Studio IDE keep getting better together. At Google I/O last year, we unveiled the App Quality Insights window. App Quality Insights, or AQI for short, pulls in crash data from Crashlytics directly into Android Studio, so you can discover, investigate, and reproduce issues within the context of your IDE. With AQI, there's no need to spend your day jumping back and forth between stack traces in the browser and those endless rows of code in your IDE. Since its launch, we've gotten great feedback from developers on how AQI is improving their development workflow and how it has reduced their troubleshooting turnaround times. And now, AQI has graduated to the stable channel of Android Studio Flamingo. As you can see here, we've also added the ability to close issues right from the IDE. Also, to make it easier to collaborate with your teammates, we've implemented notes, so you can add comments to issues and discuss how to best deal with a specific crash. We've made it possible to filter issues by Crashlytics signals, like regressions, to help you better prioritize what to fix and when. You'll find that AQI has even more features in the latest Canary version of Android Studio, like improved code navigation accuracy with version control system history. By strengthening Firebase's integration with Android Studio, our goal is to provide actionable information at intuitive places in your development workflow, so you can deliver the best, high-quality experience to your users. Another way to boost your app's quality is to find issues before ever launching it to production. And Firebase App Distribution makes it easy to distribute pre-release versions of your app to trusted testers, so you can gain valuable feedback and find the bugs that you may have missed in your internal testing. And once those testers start testing, one of them is likely to find a bug. When this happens, there's often all this work involved to get all the information you need to reproduce the issue. Your tester needs to take a screenshot. They have to transfer the screenshot to their email. They have to figure out what app version they're using, and they need to communicate all of this succinctly and clearly. Wouldn't it be nice if all of this just happened simply and easily? Well, we're excited to announce that we're launching in-app feedback for Firebase App Distribution for Android. Now, with just the shake of the phone, your beta testers can submit feedback, including screenshots, directly in your pre-release app. This makes it easier for your users to submit thorough and complete feedback. And we've also made it easier for you, the developer, to review and manage that feedback in one place as you receive it. Your team probably already uses an issue management system like Jira, or a team communication system like Slack, maybe both. So we added event arc support for app distribution feedback. This means you can automatically route feedback and all of the related information to the right place, so the relevant teams know as fast as possible. Sometimes, instead of releasing all at once, you may want to roll features of your app out gradually to your users. Maybe you have a server-side API and you want to ramp traffic up in phases. Or maybe you want a slow roll to production to minimize any risk of an issue impacting a lot of users. That's where Firebase Remote Config comes in. Remote Config brings the power of feature flags and personalization to Firebase. With this, you can dynamically control, change, and optimize the behavior and appearance of your app without requiring your users to download a new version. Remote Config also gives you the ability to roll back features that cause crashes. So if your new checkout screen accidentally breaks your entire purchase funnel, you can roll it back, fix it, and then roll it out again instantly. And that's because today we're thrilled to announce real-time updates for Remote Config. This means you can roll out app changes like new features and fixes faster than ever before. With real-time updates for Remote Config, you can alter your app and manage feature rollouts with greater confidence because every change is low risk. It can swiftly be reversed if it causes any negative issues for your users. Let's take a quick look. Here, you can see that this Swift UI view makes use of the Remote Config property wrapper to allow you to experiment with different colors. Thanks to real-time updates for Remote Config, you can also register a listener for configuration updates. And this way, changes are applied as soon as they're published. Imagine that some of your users have complained that the color of the button is difficult to see by people with vision impairments. Here, you can see how this text on this yellow button might be difficult to see for some users. Let's change it to blue, so it will be more universally accessible. We can make this change right in the Firebase console, and the Swift UI will update the user interface instantly. Real-time Remote Config is available for Android, iOS, and Unity 2. It's never been faster or safer to roll out configuration changes to your users.
We just covered a lot of new features, from Cloud Functions supporting Python to a new extension to the App Quality Insights window. Our goal is to reduce complexity and help you be more productive, so you can focus where it matters. You shouldn't have to spend precious time manually setting up your infrastructure or managing servers. You don't need to learn 100 new APIs to make your app better. And you can use the tools and libraries you love to build across platforms. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out all the other great content we have at Google I/O.